And some of the things we hear most are something like, we want to get 10,000 page views a month in 3 months, or we want to rank in the top 3 for 5 of our top 100 keywords or top 50 keywords or something like that. We want to generate 500 marketing qualified leads a month, or we want to answer 20 support tickets per month with written content, or we want to create collateral that the sales team can use to close 20 deals. All these are really good goals. These are very specific. They would very much tell me the kind of content you need to produce, with maybe just asking a few more kinds of questions to get an idea of where your funnel's strength is. But they're also very different goals. And it's almost impossible to chase all of these kind of goals at once without a huge content budget and a huge team to help promote each piece and work through each. Now, again, the bigger companies can do this because they may have 20 or 30 marketers or content people who are in charge of building out this content and publishing and promoting it and strategizing how to use it. But if you're kind of starting out, or you're in the middle of your journey as a company, you're Series A, Series B, Series C, somewhere in there, you probably don't have the resources that the biggest companies in your space do. And so the key is to hone in on the goals that matter most to you at this point in your company's history. One way I like to help define that and drive this lever is by judging the payback period of each of these goals. So in other words, and when I say payback, I mean actual dollars in the door, the payback period. Things at the top of this list, like generating lots of page views, is great for awareness. But generally speaking, those page views don't necessarily translate into sales immediately. One of the downsides to content is that it is a long-term operation. You can write 100 pieces of content and start getting lots of page views, but you may not get sales immediately from that content unless you've, again, aimed at that level of the funnel and you've got the rest of the things in place you need. Kind of down towards the bottom, as far as like faster payback period, are things like sales collateral. We'll talk a little bit about what that looks like, because we've seen a lot of clients who are trying to get a quicker return on investment for content, aim towards those sort of sales and support driven pieces and get really good results. The key is knowing that those are probably not the same pieces of content that bring in tens of thousands of visitors a month. They're more directed, they're focused further down the funnel, so the numbers are just not going to be as high. So again, as a marketer, deciding what your goal is and defining that success is one of the most important things. And it's really how you define, I mean, this is basically the definition of ROI, is having a goal that you can measure, you can decide X number of dollars towards pieces of content led to Y number of dollars back into the company, or led to this goal that we needed to hit. Some other things that I will point out, again, is the fewer the goals, the easier it's going to be to actually track and hit and know that you're doing this, and then iterate through those goals. I'll also say that the goals you set will depend a lot on what stage your company is at. So again, we've worked with companies from seed stage all the way up to publicly traded, and we've got people at all levels in between at this point. What's interesting is a lot of really early stage startups can set goals that are not revenue driven, and that makes sense for them. If you work in an early stage startup, you know this, but I'll just throw this out here in case it's helpful. If you're in seed or Series A, your investors might be looking at page views or GitHub stars or some other kind of metric, even email subscribers, as your key metric, and not just end revenue. And so if those are your key metric drivers that you're really trying to push to get your next round of investment, it's important that you understand that, and that you set content goals and you create the kind of content that would attract those things, rather than aiming for revenue driving content, which again, may not be the thing your investors care about at the early stage of the company. Now, again, this is very, like, I worked in venture funded startups for 10 years, and everyone is different, and every VC is different, every angel investor is different. So I can't tell you what they want to look for in your company, but I can absolutely tell you the results that they're looking for vary wildly depending on what their goals are and your goals are, and how you're selling the company to them. The other thing that I've noticed, again, working with 100 plus clients in the last couple of years, has been that developer relations and developer marketing may often be working closely together and may be friends, or they may be really far apart as far as what their goals are for content. And I think this can be a challenge for anybody in DevRel or developer marketing. But in another way, you have to realize where you sit in the org chart and what matters most to you. So often what I see, again, this is broadly speaking, and there's lots of variation, especially because DevRel is such a new field where everybody's figuring it out. But often I see developer relations people focusing more on documentation, support, use cases, integration guides, things that ride the line with documentation. And their goals are often a little murkier than marketing teams. On the other hand, marketing teams often have a little bit of a stronger sense of what their goals are, and a little bit better of a sense of, we're driving page views or email signups. They also tend to be more focused on things like the sales collateral, which is often something that marketing people think about. And so knowing where you sit in the organization is going to help you define the kinds of content you need to write, especially if you're trying to report up to a C-level or a marketing lead or a DevRel lead, and you're trying to pitch them on the best kind of content to produce. And then this should be obvious because I've talked so much about goals, but creating content just for the sake of creating content is a really bad reason to do it. And so definitely think about that and set really good goals. I was on a call a month ago with a potential client, and they kind of said, like, I don't really even care what the content does, just I need content. And I mean, I guess that's fine, but it's also kind of, it's going to be tough to sell that to your boss. Even if you sell it the first time and your boss buys in, you get some content, like, are you going to be able to sell that again when, you know, renewal time comes around, like when they're asking about the return on investment for this piece of content they're creating? Probably not. And so just creating content is fine if you are really, really sure that that's all your boss's boss and the founders of the company need. But in most cases, people want to see an actual ROI and it driving toward a metric.